Good morning and welcome to Vineyard Community Church at Mount Comfort. My name's Rick Francis. It's a joy to be with you today. Isaiah writes in chapter 55, verse 8, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." I was listening to Pete Scazzero's podcast yesterday where he's interviewing a Trappist monk. And little did I know that that was going to be an opportunity for me to encounter something of the Lord that was more than I was really counting on. In this monk was talking about the contemplative life, and that can sound kind of philosophical. But I was really impressed. Here was a man who pastored a large congregation, but yet felt called of God to go into the monastic life. And here he was talking about contemplative prayer. And he was looking at prayer in light of our relationships, what we would have when we have an acquaintance with another person, where we just speak and share a conversation with someone in the marketplace as we're doing life. And then the next level he called friendship. And friendship goes a little deeper, where you're sharing more of yourself with another person. Then he says we connect at an emotional level. He calls it the puppy love level. And he says that's where we enter into marriage relationship with another, where we share our whole body, soul, and spirit with one another. That's where intimacy takes place. And then he talked about a fourth realm, where there is total stillness, where you are in faithful union with one another. And in this way, in prayer, faithful union with God, present with him in love. Well, that got my attention. The contemplative union of how we get together and we're there with the Lord. So as I was listening to that, I realized that God is the one that is the initiator at all times. He's the one that calls us and even gives us a desire to come to know him. And as we respond to that initial desire to get to know him, we find that as we nurture that, it continues and he gives us more grace to know him in a deeper, more intimate way. And it continues. A lot of times in those early days we've got our petition list where we're saying, God, give me, give me, give me, give me. We have our needs. Lord, I need a better job. Lord, I need a car. Lord, I need... And those are legitimate things. But there's a different level of relationship that's coming down as we get to know him and as we receive his love and experience his love. We move from that acquaintance and friendship down to beyond an emotional level. And he was talking about this level of oneness in his love. And that just blew my mind. To think that the God who created all of the cosmos wants to have a relationship with me at that level of love. When I look at that, it's beyond my mind's ability to grasp. Who can grasp the infinite God? Who can grasp his love for us? I can't do it with my mind. My mind is inadequate. So what can grasp the love of God? My heart can. That's where I can experience God. Even though I don't have the intellectual prowess to be able to fully understand the wonder of God, I still have the ability to give him a hug. And it's out of that hug that we connect with him in a deeper and deeper way. Our minds cannot grasp, but our hearts can, the infinite love of God. Will we fully actualize that? Well, I've been swimming in his love for some time now, and I've never touched bottom. There's always more to experience, more to encounter, more to know. I've been thinking about that ever since yesterday. And as I think about this, I find that I'm really dwelling upon some deep thoughts, some big thoughts. I'm thinking about eternity. I'm thinking about how great is his love. I'm thinking about some of those things that go beyond. To get to the place where we have that love connection with God requires that out of seeing him for who he is and experiencing his love, out of those opportunities of hugs, out of those opportunities to receive more and more of his love, I find that my will wants to melt into his will. I find that there's less of my will that I want to see fulfilled and more of his will. And I think that's the kind of where the rubber meets the road for most of us as believers. We have some measure of wanting his will, but yet we still have our will. And so we go from these highs and lows and these ebb and flows of that. But when you think of Christ, as he said, looking at the cross, not my will, but thy will be done. There's that point in our love connection with God where we start to yield to his will and we start to desire his will above all other wills. When I see that, I say, Lord, how in the world do I get there? And one of the keys for us to ever get to the level of love that the Lord's calling us to is forgiveness. It's to realize that if I'm going to get to the place where I love as God loves, that means I have to love the way God loves, and I have to love the things that God loves. And God loves the whole cosmos. He loves every human being. And I find that within me, so often we think, well, I love you, Lord, and I love your kingdom. It's just people that I have a problem with. And it's like, okay, how do I get your love for people the way you do? And that's through the gift of forgiveness. Getting to the place where we can forgive. I think that's where the enemy gets us stuck. Because we have one who's offended us in such a way that it's almost unpardonable. And we don't know how to even begin to broach that. I would say the best way to broach that is to continue to focus on how much he loves you. To continue to focus on the love that he has. And as you give those hugs, you'll find that out of that position, your will start to melt into his will. And you'll find that his love will manifest in your life. And then you can be able, or at least willing, to forgive. Forgiveness and love always go hand in hand together. So the Lord bless you as you continue in your journey of loving more fully in God.
Rejoice, rejoice,